President Trump has been in office for, 19 months. How are these coal states doing now?
Well, psychologically, they're seeing some relief from the Trump administration, where the president is, delivering on some of his campaign promises to remove some of the regulatory barriers to using coal and extracting it. But they're not seeing huge market dividends. Largely, that's because the power sector is still turning toward natural gas and renewable power. There have been hundreds of coal power plants, some 40% of the U.S. fleet that have either closed or already slated for retirement. And many of the changes the administration is attempting to make just can't alter that market reality.
Well, that's part of the question. If they get the changes through that they're now proposing, what might that do to it? But first, explain what the changes are to me, because I've read two different things. One is a shift from regulating emissions to regulating efficiency, saying get more efficient, but we're not going to directly regulate emissions. The other is delegating to states. How do those two things fit together?
Right. So the Trump administration is still planning to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants, but they're going to do it in a radically different way than the Obama administration did, where the Obama administration, planned this expansive program where states were encouraged to shut down coal plants and use more natural gas. The Trump administration's proposed replacement today would have the EPA laying out emissions controls that they would like to see used at power plants, the kind of efficiency upgrades that can eke out modest gains in the amount of electricity generated per ton of coal. That reduces emissions. But then they're going to leave to states the specific plans on how individual facilities can reduce pollution. So they're going to set the benchmark broadly in terms of what is technologically feasible, but they're going to give states lots of leeway in deciding what should be done at individual plants, and it may actually differ from plant to plant, even in individual states.
And Jen, if this went through tomorrow, which of course is not true, it's got to go through a process, but it went through tomorrow, would it make coal cheaper than natural gas?
That's a hard question to answer, and one analysts are still pondering today. But the administration does see, it's doing two different sets of models on its main proposal, where under both of those proposals, or both of those models, rather, it sees an uptick in coal production, a very modest uptick, potentially as much as 4.8% or 5%. Tied to relatively low power prices. So in a high price environment, some of those benefits would disappear even under the administration's forecast.